This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today I'm going to talk about the delusion of being immune to external influence. Most of us, if not all, have to a certain extent suffer to a certain extent of this delusion, of this idea of free choice and free determination and independence and autonomy, that we are responsible for all our choices. We as if we somehow float, as if we somehow have a barrage, a filter that keeps us, that protects us from external influences, that we do not interact with the environment, that we don't need the environment, the socioeconomic, sociocultural environment to provide for us, to keep us sane, okay? We are sociocultural beings, and society and the need for social social exchange and social connection is crucial for us to keep us sane. It's not a luxury. This is a culturally built belief. This the belief in individual, in this autonomous individual. It's part of belief system, which is as a political and economic motives to make us feel to make us feel responsible for everything that happens with us. Is not because we must not be, or we have to be responsible for our acts and our choices, but we cannot exclude that our acts and our choices do not happen in a social void, in a socio-cultural, socio-economic and socio-political void. Because all living beings need and live and interact with their environment. They cannot live independently. They cannot succeed or survive independently from their environment. So it is always a two-way system. You know, it always there is. We influence the environment. We can change the environment, and the environment in return changes us, shapes how we perceive ourselves, how we understand reality, how we perceive the reality, how we interact and relate to each other in the environment. So this is totally delusional to think that we are not influenced, affected, and changed by the environment. The environment, socioeconomic, sociocultural, political, and also the natural environment on which we depend for our survival is not, they are not abstract concepts. This is the very reality to which we are connected, or even, okay, if we are not connected, at least we depend on that reality to survive and to thrive. And those who thrive also, they think it is the so-called achievers and entrepreneurs and innovators and all that I would say rubbish, because it's rubbish. It's not because they do not have value. It's not about that. It's the ideological frame, is the narratives, is the way they are framed that is wrong. Because there is a moral value of superiority, and the others, the ones that are non-achievers, the losers, and it's an inferiority. It is an implicit inferiority, how we paint and frame people and whatever is behind their success. We do not need to we don't need to justify neither ones nor the others. Which the point is, we all are influenced and shaped by the environment. And there are people that have the ability, not only for the wrong reasons, okay, I'm not going to say that, to find more easily the opportunities that exist, or even they create opportunities. In many cases, these people are not exactly the ones that have in mind the best interest of the community, okay? But they are also good people with these instincts, let's put it this way, these instincts to create or to find the opportunities. The thing is that those opportunities, they exist because there is this socioeconomic environment. There is also the institutions that we most of the time don't think about, which is the codes, the law, the private law, whatever law it is, all the laws that allow that. What is the law? The law is a certain principles and frames that are institutionalized in a code, and that code is going to allow certain groups or individuals or interests to be protected. It's not in general, the law, it's not always about, maybe most of the time, is not about defending the common good. It's more about defending groups that have vested interests. This is what it is about. This is why the environment matters. And since we can change this environment, we usually, as the people, the many, allow others to do it for us. And we never scrutinize it properly. And this is why we need to understand that we are deeply affected, influenced, shaped since we are born by the way the world is framing, by the way the reality is framed, by the way the political reality, the economic reality, the cultural reality is framed. And all the concepts that we assimilate, that we are colonized by them, because this is not, again, we start to be indoctrinated and instrumentalized without having a saying, because we do not have that saying. Before we are able to think through or to break down the concepts, the reality, we are already indoctrinated and instrumentalized by those concepts about money, about relations, about inferior and superior, about intelligent and non-intelligent, there is a lot of concepts which are always ideology. There are ideas, ideas have consequences. And narratives are always about spreading ideas framed in a certain way, in a certain moral. and also in the cosmology, it explains the world for us. And then when we do not take this in account and do not learn how to have a critical approach, a critical analysis, holistic critical analysis of these realities, of these frameworks that deeply affect how we think, how we perceive, and everything else, we don't even get that how deluded we are by thinking that we are independent, that what we think, how we think, and why we think like that comes just from our abilities, our skills, our intellectual, our cognitive skills. This is totally, it is an absolute delusion. Okay? This is an absolute delusion. We also need to be skeptical about the scientific approaches in the social sciences, but also in the medical sciences, and psychology, psychiatry, sociology, all the neurosciences and all that, because you have to understand that this science, when they make their experiments, they build a frame. So they come to conclusions through those frames, through those lenses. And all the time, never forget that these frames are not, they are always contaminated with ideology. They are contaminated with the dominant ideas of the time. They are not free. They are not exempt. And this is very important to understand. And always we need to use our to be skeptic about it, because we are. It's not that we don't need the scientific knowledge. What we must understand, that we can be indoctrinated and instrumentalized by that very knowledge, that just because we consider it not contaminated by values or ideologies, which is not correct. And even if it was not contaminated with ideology and value systems, it is just the way, because it's the way it's framed, it's already going to give you a biased result. So we always need to go beyond when we try to understand and analyze and the human nature and the condition, our very condition, and how we behave and how all this and that, how we perceive ourselves. We need to use the common sense. We need the knowledge, because without the knowledge, or at least the basic knowledge, we don't know how can we. But we also have an important thing. It's a self-analyzed life. You see, you go through and the people you know and you interact with. Analyze your behavior. Analyze your thinking. Think about your own thinking. Analyze it. Understand your motives, your deep motives. And understand others around you. Not just because you want to criticize or to be this or that, but you want to understand the nature, our very nature. You want to have a meaningful, and that's how we build meaningful lives. It's not just because we believe in this delusion idea of not being influenced by anything and this. No, we just need to understand human relations, our pulsions, our desires, our emotions, our everything that is part of a complex living organism that is part of that organism, when this organism is always interacting and related to other organisms and to the environment, not separated from it. Even if you live alone in the middle of nowhere, you carry with you your past relations. You are always thinking about people and thinking about. I mean, that's how we. That's what we are. We are socio-cultural beings. We are social beings, and we think about our relations and our condition culturally through the lens of culture, which is always ideological. Okay, this is who we are. This you don't need any. You don't need an authority. You don't need a leader. You don't need a savior. You don't need a saint. You don't need anybody to tell you that. You can. You can understand it by yourself. If you are not all the time distracted by others, but you at the same time understand that what you are is bits and pieces of other people's knowledge and experience. And you need to put all this together in order to understand who you are as a human being, as a social, cultural creature. We live in a socio-cultural, socio-economic and political environment that is run by deep propaganda. What do I mean by deep propaganda? It's the propaganda that you don't see. That's the part of the iceberg that is submerged, that exists in our own subconscious mind. And this propaganda is ubiquitous, is everywhere, anywhere, it's across the board. So if you think that you are immune to it, you are being deeply influenced by it. It's just the opposite of what you believe. The more you believe that you are immune to it, the more you are instrumentalized by it and weaponized, which means that you just become a useful idiot. You might even be a successful, an achiever, okay, to a certain extent, according to your to how you look around you, because success is always measured against what is around us. If you have more than others, or if you blah blah blah, we perceive ourselves as achievers because we compare ourselves with others, how others are doing. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean that you are a free being, that you think by yourself. Just because you are successful, it doesn't mean that you are a free thinker, or that you are not complying, or you are not even a slave. Okay? It is true that wealth, a good wage, can give us certain freedoms. And those freedoms is exactly the possibility to have more choice. But it's more choice about buying power, about purchasing power. Okay, you have lifestyles. But then, since you live in a society that where everything can be commodified, and convenience, and we become addicted to convenience, we are again. This is not about freedom. This is about social belonging to a certain social strata, to wanting to become part of a higher strata. This is true that there are benefits with it. That's for sure. The poor, they know what don't have enough money to buy what they need. They know what it means, what it really means in the real life. But it doesn't mean that you are an independent person, that you don't suffer this delusion of independence, that self-determinism and everything else, because again, you cannot think that you can do anything and everything, because it is not possible. Then if it is the law, if you want freedom and you don't think that freedom is going to be to bring the law of the jungle, then you just are going to be exploited or killed or enslaved by someone that is stronger than you, someone that has built a system that can control you. So there is no freedom, and there is no such thing as anarchy. Anarchy can exist, but then anarchy is the worst system for a complex society. You can see this anarchy working in places like Libya, or like other states that have been destroyed, because then it's the law of the jungle. We still have a society, but there is no rules, there is no principles, there is no law, the society is not organized in a way to protect the weak, and the weak. We can always be, at some point in our lives, we are weak. We are weak when we are born, we are weak when we are older, and we are weak when we are sick, and so on and so forth. So if you think that at some point in your life you don't need anybody, you just can count on you, and this is again BS, total BS, part of that delusion of being immune to influence, of being independent and autonomous and whatever. That's not true at all. This delusion is institutionalized. It means it's an institution, and it has become an institution for political motivations, because we have a political economic system, and there is no economy. There is not that an economic. There is not possible to have an economic system that is not political. This is another delusion. And the political motivations are obvious. The capitalist system is about accumulating wealth, the pursuit of self-interest, maximization of profits, rent seeking, again, repeat twice, because that's what it is about. Rent seeking and monopolies is not about competition. That's not capitalism. Competition is natural. We don't need capitalism to have competition. As cooperation is natural, we don't need socialism to have cooperation. It's the same, by the same token. So if capitalism is the process by which individuals, corporations, families can codify into law the ability to plunder the commons, to encircle the commons, to create manufacture scarcity, to build a system based on manufacture scarcity, to be able to exploit people, to extract resources, to control territories, to build empires. Because if you want more wealth, and you need to go to other places, to other people's territories, and conquer them, and kill them, and enslave them for your own, not for the common good, again, not for the common good, but always to build your glory, to satisfy your whims. That's why the system we have we call capitalism and imperialism, which is older than capitalism, is a psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic, megalomaniacal, opportunistic system that is a system totally against the very nature of our condition, of our social condition, the social condition of our nature, of the human nature. And we don't understand by insisting. That's what we don't understand. That by keeping this delusion alive, we are just operating in a system that is against human nature. That's why we can be instrumentalized and indoctrinated to dehumanize us. It doesn't matter how sophisticated you become. It doesn't matter how successful you become. You are yourself, ourselves. We behave and we go through patterns that just make us more sociopathic. That don't make us, that are against and this is, you can be very cold. We can discover all the laws of the universe. Okay, we can go to the minuscule of the minuscule particles, and we can discover many things. So we can build this technoscientism religion, technoscience, which is a religion, and technofixism becomes the secular religions, and nonetheless we understand nothing about the blind spot which we have been and are operating in a system that is intrinsically dehumanizing. It intrinsically dehumanizes us. And this is one of the points that is part of it, is this delusion or self-achievement or not being in control. That being in control, we are in control. Nobody else is in control of my life. This is a delusion. But this is a delusion with economic and political purposes. That is always, we always have to ask, cui bono, and why? Okay, not only who are the ones that are benefiting, but also why. If we want to understand, because this to me, why is this important to me? Because since my youth, that I was always, I couldn't understand that things were wrong, because you don't have a saying, you just have to look for a job, okay? Because you need the money to survive. So, and you just, you cannot understand, because it takes time in order to understand how the system really works. It can take all your life to understand the basics, because most of the time we, again, under the delusion of not being influenced by anything, we are exactly the opposite. We are being instrumentalized. We are being distracted. There are weapons of mass deception everywhere. We are being, by being distracted, is that, time is life. the way we spend our time, the teams and tasks and whatever we do, we should understand, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? You need to really understand if what you are doing is really meaningful. Not only have a purpose, because there is purpose we cannot. It has meaning, deep meaning in relation to everything else. Because there is another principle, very important principle, which is always think in relational terms. Okay? Justice, truth, trust always exist in relation to something else. They don't exist in a vacuum, in a void, as abstract thoughts. It can be, we can think abstractly, in an abstract terms about, we can do it, but it's not the point. To understand is to relate, to be able to see, to perceive the reality in holistic terms, with the contradictions, with all the limits to our individual capacities. That's why we need each other, to correct each other, not to school each other, not to lecture each other, but to become more humans. We need others to humanize us. So we should not allow the ones that are doing the opposite to control all the systems, to be the ones that codify into law what they want for us, to indoctrinate and instrumentalize us through a totalitarian imperialistic pedagogy, to build institutions that ultimately serve their own interests. It's not about our freedom, because they just want us, or they just tolerate us as useful idiots, as disposable pawns and cannon fodder. So this is, there is a lot to say about this, but I will come to it later in another opportunity. So now I'm going to end it here. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.